Oh my gosh, I am so excited to welcome Tara Annette Rocker to Author's Corner. You can see she's buried in her books, The Adventures of Snook and Gator, and they have so many adventures. I just had a friend who cracked them open. I sent them to her, and she cannot put them down. There is some really funny stuff in these pages, and there's some lessons that are mixed in it too. So, Tara, thanks so much for coming on with us.
No, thank you.
Let's talk about what made you write these books. How did that all start?
Just it actually is a childhood dream and wanting to highlight those fun things from childhood and bring them into a story because I think they're hilarious when I look back at them. And I wanted to share that with people. I love cartoons, always have. And this was also my way of creating my own illustration character. So.
So, tell us about Snook and Gator, the main characters.
Okay, so Snook is actually based on me as a kid. Snook is the nickname my dad gave me. I don't really remember why. Just one day I remember he kind of thumped my head and he's like, Snook, Snook. He came in, and so I was Snook. And Gator was my dad's hunting dog, but he was also my dog. When he wasn't working, he was my dog in the backyard. And I would take him out for walks and play with him. So I say he was both of our dogs, Gator.
Right. All right. So, you have all these great memories and you put them down on paper. Tell us about the first book and tell us what it's about. Give us kind of an overview of that and what it was like seeing it when it was finished and seeing the illustrations and seeing it out there in the world.
Okay, so a fun fact about my first book is it actually started out really big and almost too big to think that a 8-year-old was going to get through it all in one sitting. And so I split it into two books, the first being The Adventures of Snooky Gator, and then The Adventures of Snook and Gator Too Many Bad Ideas, was birthed out of all these stories that came together. And so I started it by drawing the illustrations and then adding the story to the illustrations and saying, okay, what are you going to say was happening here when, you're flying off the swing, what was going on here? Or when you're on Gator's back and he takes off so you fall off, how are you going to explain to young readers what you were doing? So that's pretty much how one and two were birthed together.
So for you, obviously you have a knack for drawing, for illustrating because they're so well done and you have a unique style. The fact that you were able to do both, match the words with the pictures and actually start with the visuals first is really cool, I have to say, right? Because you're writing around the visuals in your head and most of us think visually, right? So that's what we think visually and then you put the words to it and what did you want the books to have? Did you want the kids to feel good when they read it, to think of their own childhood, to come away with a big takeaway and some laughs? What do you want the kids to come away with? And all the stories are different.
I really want there to be almost a unity that comes together when a kid almost anywhere in the world or United States can open this book and see that a kid in California was doing what they did in, who knows, Alaska or something. My books are in a bookstore in Canada, so there could be a kid in Canada right now relating to playing with their dog outside, or just some of the mistakes that were lessons and things like that. So just the takeaway is that, one, we're all more alike than we are different, especially as kids. And also, really in this high media society, just a reminder, hey, let their imaginations come about naturally too. Like, it doesn't have to all be a video game. Every now and then you can read a good book and it'll take you somewhere for a second. And as always, the representation, girl power, girls like dogs too. Um, and so forth. And of course, little brown girls love all that too.
Yeah, so tell us about, and I think they're all clever, and the things that you wanted to hit, the mark you wanted to hit, I really believe you hit in all of them. And I think even adults could pick up these books and have these great memories, but certainly young children, and I love the girl power, and I think that can stretch anywhere too. Tell me about and tell the people that are listening to this, watching this, about Gators Day in the Field. I love that.
Okay, so Gators Day in the Field is, I wanted to share a little bit of my family culture. I have a very Southern family, and I grew up with my father hunting. They're very ethical hunters, and it's a very precise, strategic method of training your dog and all the whole process. So Gator is a German short hair pointer, which is known as a bird dog. And so my dad and Gator would go after pheasant. And a day in the field is training Gator how to get the scent of the pheasant. It's an opportunity for Gator to exercise and get that good run out. And it's like he's conditioning. He was conditioning for the hunt. So a day in the field was like the one time my dad let me come to see the whole process. And it was really cool to be out there with him. And, I kind of had to stand on the truck. You don't want to get ticks and, things like that. So a day in the field was me sharing that special day with readers.
And then you've got a book too, Snook Gets a Friend, and that's a big deal for a little girl. And so
Yeah.
meets a buddy, meets a buddy. So Snook meets a buddy. And I love the whole premise of that. Tell us about that story.
Right. So Snook meets a buddy is, so keeping in mind that Snook is me. So now Snook, me, as an adult with a daughter, and my daughter has been diagnosed on the spectrum. And one of the things that's a big deal for her, she's really sweet, very quiet, is making a friend. And every time she'd start something new, she'd be very nervous about starting that new thing. And currently, still, she'll be nervous and she'll say something like, maybe I'll make a friend, or maybe finally I'll make a friend. And she's on this mission to meet what I know, she's not saying it that way, but a real friend. And I thought back to the buddy days when I was in fifth grade and I got a buddy, and I was the big kid, and we had to model good behavior, the teachers told us, and kind of showing that younger kindergarten buddy the ropes. Um, and so that's what concept I took, is that having a buddy, and it's this like surreal thing where Snook is getting to be a buddy to Ari, who is actually based on my daughter. So Snook is a kid and meeting Ari in school and being a buddy. And I think that a lot of parents that have children diagnosed with autism or various neurodivergence will totally get that part where we all wish we could just be a kid and be there and be that friend for our kids so they don't have to have that painful struggle of not being able to have someone to hang out with on the yard and someone who trusts that they could talk with them. And so that's really what that's all about, is like, if I had magic powers, I would be a kid for at least a day or a few days, to be a friend to her. And so through this story, Snook is able to be a friend to Ari and send that message out to young readers to be open to being a buddy in a way to, a neurodivergent student in their school. And we know they know who they are, but
Right.
get to know them beyond those adult explanations of them.
So with these adventures, I mean, there's the possibilities are endless. What's next for Snook and what's next for Gator?
So, what's next for Snook and Gator is going to be a little different. Snook is growing up a little bit, and I'm going to collaborate with my 14-year-old daughter, who I was just talking about, who loves to draw manga characters and has already created. I was looking around to see if I have something with their character on it, but has already created a few characters. And so I've talked with her and said, what do you think about turning these into a story? Um, and so I'm thinking about using these characters and giving them some powers and having Snoop kind of happenstance meet these characters and involve her in it. But definitely my daughter will be the co-author, and so this would be her debut.
I love it. I can't wait for that to come out. Taranet Rocker, your books are so good. People can get them on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, wherever great books are sold. By the way, there's no excuse. You can get them in any form you want, including it is so inexpensive to get them also Kindle. And the illustrations are wonderful and the stories are great. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.